This video is put together to help you with your survey project. You look in Blackboard in Module 9, you'll see survey project video and a follow-up. And what I provided in there is a copy of the instructions for the survey project and then the rubric I'll use to evaluate that. And then down under assignment, what I want you to do is submit in Blackboard because this has been set up as an assignment. Let me know if you have. I want you to view, of course, right now you are viewing the recorded session. I need you to let me know if you're going to use Qualtrics. So far I don't think anybody is, but let me know so I can get you a login with the university. And then I want you to submit any question you may have on the assignment, and I'll respond back to those as part of your assignment. We'll start with the purpose of the assignment is to, as with all the assignments that we've done in the technology for a doctoral students class, is expose you to some of the tools that could be beneficial in your dissertation. Doing surveys is a very common quasi-experimental strategy for getting data regarding your research questions. Many times you have to create your own surveys to do that. And it doesn't mean they all have to be quantitative. You can create some surveys that are quantitative, but some surveys may be gathering qualitative data. So they're good for either type of study or any type of mixed methods process. Most of you, I think, have chosen SurveyMonkey as your survey application you're going to choose for this. As I mentioned previously, Qualtrics is something the university. It's very similar to SurveyMonkey, but just like all applications, it does have some differences, but it basically does the same thing. Google Forms is also an application you could use. So whatever you feel comfortable with, all of those survey tools can accomplish the requirements of the assignment. So I'm going to go over here to what the assignment is. So if you pull up the assignment, you'll see this. Your final project is you're going to create a 5 to 7 question survey with questions related to your topic, study topic. I want you to use at least 3 different question/response forms or formats. And I want you to include at least one branching or skipping feature. And sometimes we call this skip logic, and I'll demonstrate how to do that. This is when, for example, you're doing a survey, and let's say you ask someone's opinion about something. And it's usually a question related to how you feel about something. And you might say if everyone that chooses a certain choice, let's say very satisfied or neutral, but if they choose very dissatisfied, it might jump them to another page or another question and probe a little more about, well, why were you dissatisfied? You may have experienced this if you've ever been stuck on one of those phone surveys where it seems like the way you answer your question drives you down a long trail of more questions. So you begin to play a little game with them. It's okay, how can I answer this to where it branches me to the end closer? And of course, most of us probably just don't answer the phone when we know it's probably a survey. You're going to post a link to your survey, and I'll show you how to create a link in SurveyMonkey. And then each of your classmates is going to go through, and I want you to respond to at least 2 of them, and I'm going to respond to everyone's survey link and give some feedback. I want you to do that by April 7th. And then after you see the feedback from your classmates and from me, then I want you to make any changes that you may see that could be made to it. Actually, you really can't necessarily make any changes to it afterward, but your report might represent some changes or some ideas from that. And then you're going to submit a report by April 14th, and that'll be the final of your assignment. You'll also see in the assignment that I provided the rubric that I will use to assess it, and all of those things I just talked about are articulated in the rubric. So now I'm going to go over to SurveyMonkey. And what you're seeing here is I've already logged into my SurveyMonkey account. Now, you may notice some features in my view that you may not have, and it's because I've got their premium level account because I do a lot of different types of survey work inside SurveyMonkey and for different things I do in education. So when you go, first view come up as my surveys, and you can see there's all kinds of surveys that I have listed here. You can also go to the dashboard. The dashboard will show a quick view of the top survey that's on there, and then you can edit the survey. One of the things you'll find in SurveyMonkey is there are a lot of ways to perform the same function. For example, I can create survey from here. I can create survey from here. There's just a lot of different ways to do it. The first thing I'm going to do is just show you how to start creating a survey. And then the second thing is I'm going to take you to a survey that I've already done to show you how you incorporate the skip logic. So we're going to start with create survey. First thing it's going to do is ask you, do you want to copy this from an existing survey? Do you want to start from scratch? Or do you to build it for me? You can actually do that, and they've got a beta system. You may not see this, but I have it in my version where they will actually build one for me based on criteria. And you may already have an existing survey in SurveyMonkey, and that's perfectly fine if you want to copy that existing survey again and then add to it to meet the standards for this assignment. We're going to choose start from scratch. We'll call it something. I'm going to call it EDU 8308. And I'm going to go ahead and check a category just from a standpoint of it's easy. It makes it a little easier to search. It asks me if my questions are already written. There's actually a way to import your questions in here if you have them already written. Well, in this case, we're going to start from scratch, so I'm going to say create survey. The first thing I'm going to do is going to go to the page title. You can put a logo in there, by the way, and I'll show you what that looks like on a survey that I've done. You're going to want to title each page of it, and you may only have, say, 2 pages, and that's okay. So our first page I'm going to call Introduction. And then right here is where I want you to put your description. What's it for? So forth. That's part of your rubric that says that. So you're going to put that in there. Then we're going to save that. And that's going to take us immediately to the first question. And you'll notice question 1 is going to enter your question, and then it's going to give you choices here. What kind of question do you want? Well, multiple choice, of course, is the default because that's a very common one. But you'll notice when you click the arrow, there are a lot of different options to use for this. And this is where I want you to use at least 3 different formats. You can use checkboxes, multiple choice, drop down, matrix, and it's pretty self-explanatory once you choose each one on how you move forward. The only thing you'll have to watch out for is if you're going to use the skip logic, there needs to be something that it has to be a specific choice. You couldn't necessarily use a comment box or a text box with open-ended response, and that wouldn't necessarily go. What you would need to have is something, there's a clear choice of within the multiple choice or within one specific choice that would send it somewhere. So I'm going to stick with multiple choice. And I'm going to enter a question. How do you feel about your study topic? Question mark. Okay. Now, you'll also notice here there's some choices here that give me suggestions I could use. Now, I'm not going to do that because I've already chosen the question I want to use. So it's multiple choice. Then it's going to ask me this. I could use, let's see if there's any good choices there. Let's use, no, I'm just going to put my, I'm going to feel. First choice is I feel great, fuzzy, confused. And then there's some choices down here I can look at. Like score this question, enable quiz mode. No, I'm not interested in that. Add an other answer option. Now, that's a good idea if you wanted to ask, you gave a multiple choice, but then you wanted to have a comment field to say, is there anything else you'd want to say on that? So we don't want to do that. So I'm going to hit save. And now you'll see the question in its format that would be seen in the poll. Now, if I want to edit this, or I want to look at options, option says require an answer. If you want the question to be answered, and I would say most of the time on your multiple choice And answer choice type questions, I would say you want to require an answer. And then it gives you some text to put in there. By default, it says the question requires an answer. I'm not interested in changing the layout. I'm not interested in randomizing. I'm not interested in enabling question test A or B in this particular one. So I'm going to save for that. So now we know they have to answer it. And by the way, you'll see this little asterisk by the one, which tells the person and the person that created the survey that you got to answer this. And in fact, it won't let you go forward until you do. Now, here's another area that I'm going to talk about a little later, but this is where we talk about skip logic. It's under the logic. You can also have a copy function if you wanted to copy this question somewhere, because sometimes you may have 4 or 5 questions, for example, that are very similar in format, but you're asking for different content. That's a really good feature to go copy question, because it'll just keep copying it over and over and over. So that's how you do one question in there. So as you keep going, just create your 5 to 7 questions as you create your survey. Now I want to go back over here, back to my surveys, and I want to show an example of skip logic. Here's a survey I just recently created. I'm going to pull that up, and you'll notice choices up here. Here's the summary of the survey, how many pages it is, how many questions are there. I have choices. I can design the survey, I can preview and score it, I can collect responses, I can analyze results, and I can present results. And this is new, and you may not have that on your version, depending on the version you have, but I have that. Analyze results is really probably the most common thing, and this is where you'll actually create your report. So I'm going to go back to Design Survey. And I happen to know on this question right here, it says, overall, rate your level of satisfaction with the Principals Institute experience, and you see the choices, very satisfied all the way to very dissatisfied. Well, I put skip logic in here, and you'll notice what I said was, on very satisfied, I want this to skip to page 2 to the top of the page. So when you do the survey, if anyone clicks very satisfied or satisfied, it's going to click to page 2. This is neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, and the reason for there's nothing there is I don't want it to go to either page 2 or 3. It's probably going to go straight to page 4. Now dissatisfied is going to go to page 3, and very dissatisfied is going to go to page 3. And the reason for that is we want the respondent to forcibly tell us, okay, if you said you were dissatisfied, why? Or very dissatisfied. Tell us why. Give us some feedback so we know what we can do to make that better in the future. So that's all there is to doing skip logic. It's a very simple process. Something I didn't cover was move. You can use this to move questions around, but you actually don't have to do that. You can move the questions around this way. If you want to, you don't have to necessarily move it using that function right there. Now, when you're ready to collect responses, so where do you get this link? Well, go to Collect Responses. Now, down here you have all kinds of choices on how you can collect those responses. So, for example, I use WebLink. There's good things and bad things about WebLink. WebLink, and I have the option to customize it so I can make it a little more specific. But here's your WebLink. You can just copy and paste that, and that's what you would put into your discussion board. The good part about using a link is it's very easy, and anybody can get to it. But that can be a negative part, is anybody can get to it. It's completely anonymous, and unless you've designated that they have to put their email in or something, you really won't know where it came from. There is some control, though, is once the person responds once from a computer, it will not allow them to respond again from that IP address. Now they could go to their phone and do it and probably get another response in. So that kind of depends on what your level of security you want on your responses. So that's something you just have to think about as you go through. So anyway, that's how you get your link. Now looking at Analyze Results. It will automatically, give it just a second here, because I know I've got a few responses in on this particular one. It will give you all of the information. And if you want to save this as a report, the easy way to do that is go right here. We're going to go question summary data. I know I take that back. We're going to go all the way up here and for the whole thing. And we're going to go export file, all summary data. And then I can choose to get a PDF file. So I'm going to export that. Should see it show up over here, I believe. I have to go to my dashboard, right? Well, I'll have to look and see where it exactly went, but usually because it usually shows up over here. But you'll get a report, and that'll be what you submit on April 14th. So hopefully that gets you going. You've got a lot of time on this because they said the first. Go back over here to assignments. The first part, which is your posting the link in the discussion board, is on April 7th, and you don't have to turn in the report till April 14th. So you have lots of time on this. Good luck to you. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will follow up with you to help you get started on this. Bye.